What's up, everybody? Welcome into this episode of the Rapala We Are Collegiate Bass Podcast. Crazy to say, but the spring tournament season's getting going here in 2025. Started off Bassmaster College Series over at the Harris chain. Jake Peck and Luke Wyle from 12th ranked Auburn University got the win. Event shortened due to weather. One-day tournament, total weight there, 23 pounds, 2 ounces. Luke had the big bass at 8 pounds, 14 ounces that we'll talk about a little later. Jake, jump on in here real quick, man. To start the year 2025 with a big victory for the team. Tell us about it.
Yeah, man, it was a pretty special week. Starting off strong is always, top priority whenever we're going to these events. And that first event of the season is always kind of your opportunity to get the ball rolling. I feel like it sets the momentum and kind of the standard for the rest of the season. So we're super fortunate to sneak out of there with the win at the first one, get the monkey off of our backs for qualifying for the national championship. But more than anything, just getting that momentum as we roll into the season. I think it couldn't have panned out any better.
Luke, yourself, man, tell us also kind of in the same vein of what Jake just answered, to get that victory, I believe probably also your first major victory at the college level. What's that mean both personally and for your two angler pairing?
Yeah, so it was huge I never expected that my first real major Bassmaster tournament that we'd get the win. And so that was just super special. I guess I didn't have the hardships going along the way that a lot of guys had that would have made it more special maybe, but I'll probably remember that forever. So it was pretty great.
Definitely a good way to start it off, good way to kick off the spring season. Like we said, the first major event here to get things going in 2025 across the college scene. Took place there at the Harris chain in Florida. Weather that week, even across the South and a majority of the country, it was unseasonably cold. Brought with it some harsh conditions there. The first day of tournament competition canceled due to weather, so then everyone fished on that second day. Jake, kind of set up the scene a little bit maybe of how the weather impacted both your practice and the tournament day of competition. Obviously shortened the event in half, but also probably played a role in the way the fish did or didn't react when y'all were out there.
Yeah, 100%. The weather, like you said, was absolutely horrible. I mean, it was blowing 25 to 30 mile an hour gusts throughout practice and tournament day. And the wind was switching also. And so with that in practice, I kind of made the decision that I would, me and Luke talked about this. We wanted to try to find areas where we thought fish would be moving towards. Whenever we got there, the weather wasn't horrible, but throughout the week, we knew it was going to progressively get worse. And so we were really looking for offshore stuff, looking for stuff that was way off of the bank in the middle of the lake that we were fishing in, thinking that, those fish would probably be a little bit less affected by the wind switching and blowing super hard. It's not like they're in cattails or on the bank, or a few, 50 to 20 yards off of the bank, like anything like that, where those huge waves would really affect him and push him and move him. I think I was looking for stuff that was out there in the middle. That was stuff that, maybe if those fish got blown out somewhere that they would pull off to. And I think that from practice to the tournament, the stuff that we had found in practice ended up getting better. Our practice really wasn't that great, but I think that because we were looking for stuff that we figured they would be moving towards, that ended up working in our favor quite a bit. And so by the time the tournament rolled around, it seemed like there was more fish on the things that we had found than what we saw previously in practice. And then even more important, there was bigger fish there. So they worked out perfect, honestly.
Yeah, that's part of bass fishing. You get out there, you got to play the conditions, the hand that you're dealt, and use that to the best of your success, which it sounds like you guys did. Luke, let's talk some more about the conditions there. So you think of Florida this time of year, no matter whether it's college series, high school, or even the professional anglers, that's kind of where everybody's season starts. You look at the pros, they head out that way to kick things off, and you're seeing across the country, different parts where these kids are coming from at campus, it's pretty cold. So to be able to head that direction, put on some shorts, wear some sandals and fish in January, that's the goal. But that's not what you guys were able to do, because I'm also, as we talk about, I remember what was going on just about the time of that event. I think a lot of the Gulf, there was snow on beaches and things like that, not around that same time. So the weather unseasonably cool. It leads me to my question of, when you're preparing for your season, you look at your schedule, you put that on your schedule and you're like, man, that's where I want to be, get the semester started. It's going to be nice. It's going to be warm. The fish are going to be up shallow on beds. To get there and that not be the case, you guys adjusted well. Talk a little bit about the mental psychology of that, of, keeping y'all focused on the game plan at hand and being able to go out there and achieve that task, both from strategizing on the water, but also not getting spun out. Because, for me, if I'm an angler and I'm making that trip, I might have done the opposite of what y'all did and known, hey, they're supposed to be up here, so I'm going to go up shallow and flip. That's what happens this time of year, but that's not what y'all did. Talk about the mental aspect of all of that from the planning and just going out there and executing.
Yeah, so, I feel like any tournament we go to, we just expect the worst weather. We never seem to roll up on a tournament and just get ideal conditions. So we were we were prepared to have like a cold front. We knew it was coming. And that kind of settled into our strategy of what our plan was. We knew from, I'd never been to Florida, Jake had, but just doing research, and we knew running around and trying to do a bunch of different things was going to end up getting us burned. So really just having confidence to stick in an area that we knew had a good population of fish, and really just settling in there and working just super slow through that area was going to be the best way for us to have success. And I think on the mental side, a lot of guys were kind of getting stressed out and pulling the plug early and kind of bailing on their area. And we really just decided to put our head down and grind it out in the place we had the most confidence in. I think that's about it on that.
Jake, next question we'll send your way. Let's get into specifics of how y'all caught the winning fish. 23 pounds, 2 ounces. 8-pound, 14-ounce big bass we'll ask Luke about next. Get into how y'all were going about targeting these fish. As you've said, y'all were offshore, most likely probably fishing pretty slow, utilizing your electronics and things of that nature. Kind of break down exactly what it was y'all were doing to catch the winning bag.
Yeah, so bottom composition is really what it came down to last week. Just paying attention to what's on the bottom. We got comfortable in an area. It had some sparse grass on it. Obviously, being in Florida, though, there's tons of grass in those lakes, and so we found an area that there wasn't a ton of grass. It was a little bit more firm of a bottom, and then on that firmer bottom, we were able to find clumps of grass, and then also little shell beds and things like that those fish would pull up onto. And so in the practice days, we were really finding solid populations in those sparse patches of grass. A lot of it was eelgrass, some of it was hydrilla, and we were able to catch them out of that grass pretty well. And then we really were hunkering down on shell whenever we were catching our big ones in the tournament. And then I caught a 7-pounder off of shell in practice as well, which is kind of the fish that keyed us into this bite. But the thing that was the biggest difference from practice to the tournament is, man, in practice, we were just bouncing around in that area, just looking for that high percentage stuff, looking for those grass clumps that were holding fish, and things like that. And then in the tournament, we were really camping on it, and we were camping on those shell beds and things like that to the point where we would see phases of fish move through it. In practice, we're not going to sit there that long to be able to watch a group of fish move up onto the shell bed stage and then leave. But in the tournament, whenever we're going to burn it all to the ground, we're sitting on a spot so long that you're seeing a wave of fish move up onto the shell bed. They'll station up on it and kind of, be set up to eat. And those fish are super smart. They're getting pressured a lot. So sometimes you'd see them move up on the shell bed. They would stage properly. You'd be able to make a cast on them, and you'd fish for them for, 30 minutes, and they would never bite. And then they'd move off. And then the next wave, 30 minutes later, would pull up on it, and you'd throw on them for 20 minutes, and then, a bite window would open all of a sudden, and you'd catch them, and then it would be over. And so the bite windows and being on the right spot at the right time really is what it came down to. We were dragging Nico rigs. A lot of the other guys that we were fishing around were fishing fast and chasing fish. And I know some guys who top 10 and did good doing that in there. But in my opinion, I think to trick those giants, those 6-pounders and that 8-pounder that we had in our bag, I think you have to slow down and let those fish come to you. So that's what we were doing. We were sitting on those shell beds and waiting for those fish to pull up and to be ready to feed. Whenever I was doing research before we went down there, I was kind of learning that those shell beds are like dinner tables for those fish, and whenever they pull up onto them, they're ready to eat, and that's the only reason that they're there. And so you can find good shell beds in practice, and there's not fish on them, but if you check them enough times, you just got to wait for a wave of them to pull up on it. And if you can sit on a shell bed or whatever your kind of confidence is long enough to let those fish pull up, and that bite window open, then something pretty magical can go down, which is what happened on our tournament day. We caught a 6-pounder and an 8-pounder in less than 10 minutes apart. So that was just a prime example of kind of what we were looking for, and fortunately it came to fruition on game day.
That's an awesome breakdown and analysis of how you guys caught the winning fish. We were working on some content here for Carico, separate to the college series, but some other things here at the office, and we went crappie fishing last week, and in preparation for it, we were talking about some different items and where to go and what to do, and someone mentioned, whatever they do in the summer is what they do in the winter, and it's interesting to think about that, and I'm not sure that bass are that different. They are a little bit, but not a lot now that we, with the live scope, and we get a better idea of what's going on and where these fish are setting up. What you're doing isn't that much different than maybe something you could go do and find success with in the summer. Just maybe tweaking the presentation and understanding what those fish are targeting and how they're setting up. Maybe the bait fish changes from season to season, but they're there and they're hungry and they're willing to bite. If you could stick it out, you're going to have a chance to catch them. Really cool to hear Jake talk about that. Luke, let's get to this big fish we were teasing. 8 pounds, 14 ounces, big bass of the tournament. You guys said, let's just give us a story on it. How did, from cast to landing it, getting it in the boat and waiting on stage, man, talk about that whole experience.
Yeah, so like Jake said, I mean, we would sit on spots long enough to see different groups of fish roll in and out. And when we rolled up on this spot, we could see them sitting on the shell beds and sitting around in that grass. And we sat there for probably 30 minutes, and we hadn't caught, maybe a 1-pounder. And then all of a sudden, we kind of see maybe a group of big gizzard shad roll across this flat, shell bed. And all of a sudden, the shell bed kind of comes to life. The bass aren't necessarily coming up and feeding on this bait, but you can tell there's definitely more activity going on. And right then, Jake caught a 6-pounder, and then we're just lining up our casts on all this bait and these fish, and not really live scoping them, just dragging through them. And he caught that 6-pounder, and we were a little excited during that, because we had about 15 pounds, and we thought we might have enough to qualify for the natty. But then, less than 10 minutes later, I hooked into one, and I'm like, it's a giant. And we were throwing spinning rods, so it was pretty crazy to catch some giants on a spinning rod. But I leaned into him, and I knew it was a big one, and we played it pretty calm. Neither of us really freaked out at all until we got in the boat. It barely fit in the net. We thought it was a 10-pounder, but it was it wasn't too fat, so 8-14 would do. But we got pretty excited after that because we knew we were going to the natty after that. So yeah, it was a pretty exciting moment.
We're talking with Jake Peck and Luke Wyle from 12th ranked Auburn University. Got the win at the Harris Chain Bassmaster College Series first event of 2025 over there. 23 pounds, 2 ounces to get the victory. You're hearing the story of Luke's big bass that weighed 814. Jake, yourself, you've been a part of the program there for a little while now at Auburn. Auburn, one of the teams that's been around for a good while, had a lot of success, but has never won the Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abu Garcia. So far this season, maybe a little further down than you guys would ideally like to be. This victory is going to play a key part in y'all having a shot and making a run back towards the top of those rankings. Talk a little bit about it. You mentioned it earlier in the episode, the significance of starting the season with this win. Well, that win's going to help y'all achieve the goals that you want to, and as it pertains to that Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abu Garcia, just kind of expand on that and give your take of the significance of this victory and y'all's team's goals for the rest of the spring.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a very competitive team. Team of the Year is obviously, our big goal coming into the season. But more than anything, we just want to go out there and compete. That's what we do it for. We love competition. We love bass fishing. And so to start the season with the win is huge. Hopefully it gets the ball rolling. We got some momentum for sure. But just the love of being able to go out there and compete and fish against some of the best college kids in the nation. It's great. And so we're going to give it all that we got. I don't know if we'll make a run back to first, but we want to climb the ladder as high as we can, get up there as high as we can. But more than anything, we're just going to give it 110% as a team, keep on moving forward as a team, and let the chips fall where they must. But winning is great. We want to win, but we're super fortunate, super blessed to be able to do what we do. So we're going to keep on working hard, keep on trying to make our sponsors proud, and enjoying our time on the tours, and just keep on enjoying the college fishing experience. And hopefully, we just keep climbing that team of the year race as high as we can.
Last question here, Luke. We're going to wrap it up when you're done. Tell me real quick, man, for the Bass Pro Shop School of the Year presented by Abu Garcia, it's going to wrap up there at the end of May. So about 5 months left here, halfway through the season. These last 5 months, what is it that yourselves and Jake want to accomplish, as well as Auburn University bass fishing team as a whole, whether it's a specific ranking, target range, in the top 5 by the end of the season, or as many victories as possible, or maybe even it's something as simple as, man, like Jake's explaining, just being grateful for being out there, go have a good time. Talk about what the next 5 months look like for yourselves and the team and what y'all hope to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the season, I guess, and even now, we don't necessarily have like a number on what we want to do, but we just want to work hard. That's our big thing, is we might not end up being the most successful, but we want to make sure we work as hard or harder than everybody else. And at least knowing we worked hard is what's going to give us that satisfaction in the end, not necessarily like achieving a ranking. I think for Jake and I, obviously in Bassmaster, a great start to the season. So just continuing in there and hopefully put 2 more good events together. And I don't know, maybe make the bracket or something. That'd be pretty cool. But we're just Jake and I are both pretty grateful for this win and whatever like God put on our plate. Before this tournament, we were just grateful for all the blessings that he's been giving us, and we were grateful no matter what was going to happen, and we were pretty thankful for the extra blessing of this win.
Awesome message there, man. It's always great to be in the outdoors and experience that, and to be able to, understand the magnitude of the moment and the chance to be out there. I'm not taking that for granted. Definitely awesome message. Guys, thanks for joining us here today on the Rapala We Are Collegiate Bass Podcast. Hope to see y'all out on the trail here for us. Our first event of the season will be the Pickwick Slam at Pickwick Lake in Florence, Alabama there in early April. Registration is open. Get over to our website, collegiatebasschampionship.com, to get signed up. And we opened up registration too for the Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship presented by Bass Pro Shops, the ACA's historic 20th National Championship Tournament. Registration's over there on the website as well. So be sure to get signed up. See y'all out on the trail this spring. Jake and Luke, guys, thanks again for the time, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome to Minnow King. How can I help you?
Everything looks good. I'm friggin' starving, man. Been spawning all morning.
Ugh, TMI, bro. What do you want?
I'll take a Crush City freeloader and gizzard shad.
Anything to drink.
Water.
Pull ahead, please. Welcome to Minnow King.
We're gonna have what he's had. Yeah, throw me in a Ned BLT, too.
Pull ahead, please.
Calm down. Quit feeding him so much.
Hey, man, I'm trying to, man. If you overfeed him, he's going to hide under a log.